sometimes there's a bit of a learning experience involved. Hey y'all, APG Jamie here. And today I'm gonna make some silicone molds of some little mini bottles. And you know, it's weird when you're trying to name a video. Silicone molding bottles, silicone bottle molding. I don't know. Anyway, couldn't find my typical bucket that I've done silicone molding in previously. So I have an milk jug that was very well cleaned out, just saying. And we put some cold water in there, cold water, because I prefer to use the cold water. We're putting in dishwashing liquid, allegedly. I can't verify because I only used Dawn. That you can use other brands of dishwashing liquid, okay? Now these are the little pans that I will put my silicone mold pile blobs in. And I'm going to go ahead and line that with wax paper because that's just the way I do it, you know. So that's what I'm doing, just showing you how I'm lining those pans up. It's not perfect. I mean, you know, we're talking about me flying by the seat of my pants. We have done this a few times before, and I've even done it a few times unvideoed. So, I mean, you know, it's not like my first rodeo. However, we'll wait on that part. So I'm just putting some of the soapy water in there to help mold that around and just to help mold it around. Now I've already got all these little mini bottles, not Manny. Well, actually it's mini bottles. Take your rings off. Wear gloves if you are sensitive to stuff, y'all. Just saying, okay? My choice. I chose not to. So I have 100% silicone, which has gone up in price since I've made molds, which has been a few years. I think it's been pre-plague even. So 100%. It might be cheaper these days to buy that silicone molding stuff, you know, from the Amazons. So that's a caulk gun, C-A-U-L-K, from the home improvement store, or maybe Walmart had them, I don't know. And you pull that little doolally out and you shove that in your now cut open tube end, or you can just cut that off with you know, a knife or whatever. But you still have to puncture the hole, puncture the lining of the caulk, okay? Because this is considered a caulk for, you know, construction purposes. And I'm squeezing that out into my cold soapy water. Now, I do advise you add your dishwashing liquid to your water after you've put the water in the container, on account of bubbles will be formed if you pour or run tap water, which, you know, I don't think it matters, in there, okay? It just makes soap bubbles everywhere. So, that's why I did it that way. My hands are clean, they're dry. Now I'm getting them wet with the soapy water so I can kind of knead, K-N-E-A-D. I know my pronunciations are, you know, can be issues sometimes. So you can just knead that around. Now you don't want to fold it over on itself too much because bubbles will form within the silicone. Guy, because yeah, that's what it'll do. Now I'm making a nice little pile, and if I see any bubbles, I'm popping them. I'm putting it in my little form pans, just a place to hold it. Otherwise the silicone will just kind of smoosh itself back out a little bit, not totally flat, but just a little bit on its own. And as you can see, it's really not even sticking to me. Now I've got my little bottles, and I'm just going to squish them down in there. I'm not necessarily even going halfway, but I do want the tops of the bottles to kind of, you know, get a little divot in there. So I do this for I don't know if I even used all the bottles I had. I did use the whole caulk tube full of silicone. Now I tried to show that in between, you can put it all in there at one time if you want to, but my experience has shown that I do just some, and then I, release the pressure off the caulk gun, otherwise it will keep scrooching out, because that's what it does. And to release the pressure, you just push that little springy looking thingy, and it just kind of releases the pressure, okay? Because when you're squeezing the trigger, that's why it's called a caulk gun, because it's got a trigger on it, aka a little handle squeezy thing. And so you release the pressure, and I'm just going to tell you straight up, I should have just washed my bottles first. I did not pre-wash the bottles, okay? Typically, they will have some kind of manufacturing oil or debris or whatever kind of stuff is on bottles. When you buy new dishes, they tell you to wash them before you use them. Anyway, so I should have washed them and then taken my dishwashing liquid straight up, not necessarily any water, and just smooshed it all over my little bottles, okay? Because I had an issue with them sticking to silicone, okay? Once the silicone set up and got hard-ish. It doesn't really get hard. Anyway, sometimes you have stickage because you didn't have enough soapiness on your hands, and if you use gloves, you definitely want to make sure they're good and soapy as well, okay? I'm like, well, because the silicone will keep sticking to itself, all right? So I've got a third little pile coming up. I didn't necessarily want them to touch each other, but they did, so I kind of had to cut them apart. I mean, they wasn't really bad. And we were just continuing on. I'm trying to get as many little bottles in there as I can, because, the more mold you have, the less things you have to do. Now, it has set up outside for what, a few hours? It doesn't take real long for it to sit up. It is not cured. See how hard it is to get those out? I think I even stopped showing you because it's like so hard to get them out. Like I said, wash your stuff, make sure it's coated in your dishwashing liquid before you stick it in your mold. This is the first time I used glass to mold. So, I mean, cut me a little slack there, will ya? See, I'm telling you, and I've got this, it's in hyperspeed, y'all. You knew that already. I didn't have to tell you, but I'm telling you right now, it's in hyperspeed, okay? So I get out my little craft knife, because that's how well it was stuck. Now, I will tell you straight up, I did not let these molds cure long enough. I should have said, because silicone's stinky, you want a well-ventilated area. Well-ventilated area. I should have set them back outside on the breezeway and let them set up and cure for an additional 24 to 48 hours. Would have been the best choice. But no, sometimes I get a little anxious to get started. So I'm just cutting off that one part because that one was so totally boogered up, I didn't think I would be able to rescue anything in there. As you know, the previous silicone mold videos that I've done, I've used paper clay or like Fimo clay or other air dry clay in my molds, okay? I think one time I even did plaster, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, plaster of Paris, that is. So I'm cutting out the ones that I know I definitely don't want to use. A lot of them are still boogered up, and by boogered up I mean a little rough. They're not going to be smooth. I already know they're not going to be smooth. So I decided I was going to try some of this here resin, and I'm using this UV resin. It's my favorite one. I know I got tools all rubber banded around my bottle. And I'm just putting some down in the mold and smooshing it around, and I'll put it, I'm going to smoosh it, trying to smoosh out any little air bubbles, because it does get air bubbles, y'all. Now, there's a couple things you can do for air bubbles. Does it necessarily get rid of all of them? But it helps. You can put a fine mist spray. Well, I don't know about the UV resin, the mixable kind, which we'll get to that. You can put a fine mist spray of alcohol. Again, well ventilated. Wear a mask even, because, you know, alcohol is stinky. Anyway, you can also hit it with a heat gun, but that will make the liquid kind of smoosh and fly, stir itself around, sort of. And you can also, once you put it in your mold, hit it with a candle lighter, you know, butane lighter, whatever. And so that was a word that I smooshed around in the UV resin because I wanted to make sure it was well coated. There wouldn't necessarily be any air bubbles underneath it. These are just some little seed beads I'm putting in there because I'm just playing around, y'all. I'm just experimenting, you know. I really thought everything was going to be just fine and hunky-dory once I got those little bottles out of there, which I believe I, you know, told you how you can help fix that. I don't know. There's no guarantee because I've not tried to mold them again by washing the bottles and making sure they were well coated in the dishwashing liquid. I haven't done that. I did go out and try something else. We'll get to that, okay? It's a longish video. Well, it's 30 minutes. It's not horribly long, but, you know, it's longish. And so we're going to, or we already put it under the UV, and now we're going to put some more UV on top. And I will UV light it, because you have to have a UV light, or you set it out in the sun forever. Even with our absurdly obscene heat that we've been having in my neck of the woods, y'all. Oh my gosh. Not naked woods, neck of the woods. And, oh, melt. Oh my gosh. This would be a good time for that biscuit poem that I wrote forever ago. I'll have to dig that out. I don't know where it is. Well, I do know where it is, but I'm not going to go dig it out. Anyway, hot. So we're doing that, and now I'm going to get the mix-up kind. Y'all remember the clearance resin kits that I got? Okay, that's what this is. I'm just mixing. It's the mixable kind. It's a 1-to-1, okay? And I keep picking it up because I can't hardly see the line on there. Even though I know to get a true line, you want it flat on a flat level surface so that you, yeah. Anyway. Stir, stir, stir. And those are just, you know, little finger cocks that I have on my fingers to help keep the resin from getting on my fingers. You can clean up resin to a certain extent with alcohol. Okay? The 90% isopropyl alcohol. All right. So that one I'm going to put a paper clay, dried paper clay face in. So I thought, well, I'm going to put the UV resin in the bottom. All right, so it will hurry up and set up. I think that's the UV resin. We'll see if I pop it under the light. Do I pop it under the light? I don't know. See, I've already forgot because it's been a few days. Oh yeah, I do pop it. So that was the UV. I thought it was. So I'm like, yeah, that's cured enough. So do I put more on there? I don't know. I don't remember because it's already been a week. Because, you know, I was in a well-ventilated area, but nonetheless, I got a really bad headache from it. I think it's the smell of the silicone. It's just incredibly crazy. So we're doing that. Okay. Yeah, looking good. Put it under the light. Okay. Okay. Here we go. This is the mix kind. I'm going to put, yeah, this is the one I had the UV on the bottom. All right, because I didn't want my face to go all the way through the front. Here's a tip about paper clay or some other additives that you put. See, there I'm using the candle lighter, aka cigarette lighter. I don't know what they call them anymore. I guess they're still just basically called cigarette lighters. Things will float up, which means it's floating to the back part of your mold. Okay. So, I would have done better by putting that in the UV resin and hitting it with the lighter just to take any bubbles off of it. And, oh, flipping it over. I know, because, you know, she had her face in a jar by the door. Y'all know that Beatles song. Anyway. Doing that, I should have used the UV, but I didn't. It will float up. I don't catch it, and it gets a little crooked-ish. It's okay. We're just playing. I'm not making a masterpiece. Although, never rule out that you're not making a masterpiece, because it could happen. Just saying. It could definitely happen. So now I went and got some of that mica colorant stuff that came in those clearance kits, okay? I will try to link to my prior silicone mold making videos. I don't know. There might be in the upper right-hand corner, and they might be in the description box below. They were definitely on my channel somewhere. From maybe a playlist. I don't know. So I wanted blue because I wanted blue. So I put blue in here. Now this mica stuff, it's translucent, but it's not 100% translucent as like an alcohol ink colorant would be, okay, which you can put in there too. And you want to stir it all up, and you want to scrape the sides and stir and stir and stir and stir and stir, you know. If you play with UV resin, you will get the hang of it. There is a learning curve. See, now it's dry-ish. Okay, I'm going to tell you in a minute. Well, yeah, see, my face is kind of a little turned. It's okay. Now, I was very surprised when I pulled these out of the mold. Look at that stickability, y'all. What was up with that? So that's a baby wipe, and I have wiped them all off. Now, I believe it's because I did not let my silicone cure properly for a long time. Because since this, I have gone, you know, I let the molds sit outside and they cured up over weekend, at least over weekend, if not longer. I mixed some more of the mixable resin and put that in there. And when I popped them out, they weren't sticky. So I think it was a reaction between the not cured silicone and the resin. Am I positive? No, I'm not positive, because, you know, when you're mixing chemicals, you can have issues. So I'm cleaning these up, and that is just a sanding block, again, from the home improvement store. Typically, you know, around the sandpaper. It's a foam. It's like a foam block with sandy paper, not paper, it's not paper, but sand stuff around it. So anyway, sanding it all up, because, you know, I wanted, the reason I did this, because I wanted flat things that look like bottles. Well, because they didn't come out shiny from the mold, because they didn't, I am coating the outside in the UV resin to make them shiny like bottles, because, you know, now they're going to look like bottles, okay? And because I wiped them off with the baby wipes, some of them have some fuzzy stuff on there. It's just the way it goes. And they're not perfect. I mean, you know, like I said, some of the molds had definite divots in them, which causes, you know, little bumpy, boogly spots on there. So yes, you get to see me coat a lot of these in the resin, the UV resin. And we do. We just, you know, keep coating it. Did I coat it 100%? Nah, you know, because I've already decided any little things that I don't necessarily like, I can paint over them with acrylic paint, such as this, to make it look like moss or otherwise stuff on the outside of old bottles. Think old bottles, y'all. Okay? Okay. So it's okay. I mean, you know, it's okay. So that's what we do. It's a dark green. I'm painting on some of the places that are raised, because some of them have raised places. It's just the way that's just the way it's gonna be, y'all. And I'm okay with that, because you know, old bottles have boogers, not boogers, but you know, stuff on them. Old carpy stuff. I don't know what else to say. So now we're going to make something with a bottle. We're going to use one of our faux bottles, flat back bottles, not real bottles, on a thing. And I decided we were going to do one of the little manila folders, you know, from the Timmy die. Speaking of Timmy die, there's a list of ingredients in the description below the video. Okay? Now, I will tell you, it was a lot of work pulling those bottles out, pulling out the sticky resin, wiping all the resin off, cleaning up all the edges, okay? Now, since I've redone it, not redone it, but I poured more of the mixable resin in my fully cured silicone molds, I did not have the sticky problem. So, you know, I won't have to go through the hassle of cleaning all that sticky off, okay? And spots of them did come out clear. Not all of it. I think some of it may still be, and by clear I mean shining. Not clear, shining. Because I put alcohol ink in it so that I would have green bottles and some brown bottles. Because, you know, you're making them yourself. So this is just a little envelope. I'm actually gluing that card inside there because it's going to have the bottle. I don't want to take it out. Well, you can't take it out because I glued it flat shut. And I thought, well, I need to tie something around the top. So that's when I saw these little threads, you know, torn from fabric bits and bots. And I thought, well, we'll just tie that around there because that'd be cute, right? Right? Yeah, it's cute. Take my word for it. It's cute. So we're doing that. Gonna trim them off because they're too long. And I will use the molds again. I'm not throwing them out. No. They're, you know, distressed. That's the ticket. That's the ticket. They're distressed vintage, antique even looking bottles. Flat back bottles out of resin. Okay? Okay. So if you try this with the resin, make sure you let your silicone cure, not just set up and dry-ish, cure for 48 hours, at least, if not longer. Okay? Okay. Don't get too anxious and excited like me, because y'all know I do that. Anyway, I put that little thumbnail on there, and I'm like, because it's what it looks like, a little thumbnail. And I thought, well, that looks ridiculous. But, you know, I stuck it on there. I wasn't going to pull it back off. Y'all know how I am, stubborn. And most of this is desk scrap stuff. Except the paper dolls. Oh, you know I love my paper dolls. And just because they're boys doesn't mean they don't have blushy cheeks and lips. Because, you know, boys get little pink lips or whatever. So we're doing it. I think we also paint their hats, marker their hats and their shoes. Because, you know, that's what we did. And going around the edge, these are ohuhu markers. I did not tell you what colors I used, what specific, because the colors are numberized colors. Anyway, colors. Whatever color you like, use it. And because it is somewhat a glossy on a lot of Tim Holtz stuff, the water mediums take a little while to dry. Just saying. Okay? So, they will stain, but they'll take a little while to dry. And we're just, like I said, I've already said it, desk scraps, just whatever stuff I had out. I did make some die cuts because I had to die cut the folder thing. I have some ephemera bits. They're probably Timmy ephemera bits. I'm pretty sure. I didn't necessarily write down. Did I? I don't know. We're using a couple stamps. Because, you know, Our bottles may not be fancy looking, but the rest of it is, sort of. Okay, I'm happy. I'm very happy with the project. I'm happy with the green and brown bottles that I have since cast. That, you know, I didn't film because I'm like, oh, I gotta make sure this stuff isn't still sticky, because if it is, that's no bueno. Okay, and I can still use paper clay or Fimo clay or whatever air dry clay in these molds as well. Just saying. So I decided to stamp the inside of the folder, which I kind of wish I hadn't done, but that's okay. It looks fine in the end. It looks fine, and we know that's all that matters, you know, because that's what matters. And we're stamping around. I mean, it's not horrible, guys. It's just, you know, You get that. I know y'all do that stuff too. You're like, it's not horrible. It's okay. So we're just going to glute this stuff up. I decided to leave that a little opening because it's like a text box. Did I put anything in it? No. Can I? Yes. Will I? IDK. IDK. So we're going to glue stuff around. Gonna ink stuff because obviously the 30-minute video wasn't long enough. Well, the 20-minute video wasn't long enough. You need to see me ink stuff. Y'all. So we're just gonna glue this around. I had already kind of pre-laid it out and working from memory here because I did not take a picture, I don't think. Did I? I don't know. Okay. So land them around. I'm pretty happy with the project. The end project, this project. It's been a long time coming because, you know, I had to recuperate from my headache. I had to go out there and try the, you know, see if it was, the resin was still going to come out sticky. It's just, oh. Could it have been improper resin mixing? Sure. Sure, it could have been. Gluing them on, kind of left them a little open on the back so they can have like a little pocket secret tuck spot too. Just saying. Now, it was no issue to get the silicone off the bottles. I just took a craft knife and scraped it over it, and it just, you know, the dried silicone on the bottles just came right off. And here's our little molds. Am I 1,000% happy with the way the molds came out? No. Are they fine? Absolutely, they are fine. So I'm showing you our little blue bottles, our little clear bottles. I think most of them are just blue because, you know, once you mix it in there, it's in there. And here's our little project that we did. Cute. I think it's cute. I'm happy with it. Yep, I am. I'm glad I did this, even though it took a little while. Ta-da! Photo montage. Yep, molded those little bottles. As you can see, they're not even half bottles. They're more, I don't know what size they are. You can, like I said, I acrylic painted on them, and that seems to be fine. Would I take a fingernail and scrape over the paint parts? No. It would probably scrape off, but I don't know. I didn't try it, so IDK. Pretty happy. I'm trying to include a little project with the pre-project stuff that we make, even though the molding was the project. Okay? Okay. Heavy photo montage, because you know I like them. You know I do. Look at that. Cute. Scrap cards, die cut, over there by my die cutting station. I got all kinds of scrap card. Pretty happy with them. See, that's that bottle. Just saying. That's that one. I think. Pretty sure. Oh, excuse me. Hiccup. Hiccup. Oh, thanks so much for spending your time with me. And thanks for watching. Happy arting, y'all. Faux bottles.